Hello and welcome. My name is Jody Lynn Craven, founder of Abundance Consciousness, and this is my dear friend Heather Marie.
Hi, I'm Heather Marie, founder of Soulgate. Welcome to Channel Squared, where we have extraordinary channeled conversations about everyday life topics. Every week, we choose a topic, connect with you, the divine, and our guides, and then channel here with you live.
Yeah, and today we're talking about the reckoning, or is it your awakening? You know, when we look around from the human perspective, it seems like things are taking a turn for the worse. There seems to be a crisis of all things, you know, food crisis, an energy crisis, housing, environment, health, rights, so much more. It's polarizing. Everyone's talking about it, and it's instilling fear in so many people. But what if this isn't the end? It's simply the beginning, an awakening from spiritual sleep, not an awakening from spiritual sleep, but a resurrection from spiritual death. Wow, I am so excited that we have our guides for this topic. They've been queued up and queued in. They are here with us today because I think that this is an explosive conversation. And I, for one, have been feeling a lot.
I mean, I think anybody who is tapped in, maybe even those who aren't, really like listening are feeling a lot.
Yep.
You know, I think that it's really easy for us as spiritual beings to go, oh, oh, it's just this. It's, whatever's in retrograde or whatever transits are happening in the cosmos or whatever. But I really feel like, this is truly a pivotal point in our time as spiritual beings having the human experience.
Yes. 100%. And I'm excited that we're going to have this conversation because I don't think it's enough to just say, just be positive.
Right.
Okay. let's
Right.
let's have a real conversation about what's going on, how we're feeling, how you're feeling it. I mean, for me, it feels like there's a lot. Like our copy says in introducing this topic of, everywhere you turn, there seems to be something. They just turned on CERN last week, the stuff going on in Sri Lanka, the potential food crisis, like the potential financial crisis, like housing crisis, all of these things. And yeah, what's interesting for me, Heather, is noticing the feelings I have in my own personal life and what has been kicked up. And I think that we should talk about some of that stuff. And then what's going on out there and how that is like almost, I feel like as I look, if I'm not careful, I take it on and then it creates a shitstorm in my own life. You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
Yeah, like
Totally.
I'll catch myself going down like scarcity trails that I haven't done in years.
Well, and I think that's a common occurrence, right? When the mind doesn't understand what's occurring, and it's in the spirit or the soul, your intuition, your inner guidance system is picking up on all of the energies that are occurring right now. Because your mind doesn't really know where to file it, it files it into the oh shit category, right? The sound the alarm category, the category that is just like enthroned in fear.
Mm-hmm.
The place where your mind knows how to keep you safe. And the way that it can keep you safe the best is to keep you in the closet, all locked up, where nothing can actually harm you.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is as you are moving through these experiences, if you remind your mind that you're safe, everything's okay, and it all works out, you'll find that the mind will start to release that pressure of, oh shit, must hide out.
Yes. Let's talk about the reckoning for a second, because I
Okay.
think the overall, story of the reckoning, which comes from the Bible, right? That overall story and what's going to happen and the destruction and all the fear and all of that, as people are watching what's going on in life today or the last couple of years, even, they are pointing towards this upcoming reckoning, or like, it's the reckoning.
It's the end of days, everybody.
Right,
Run for the
end of
hills.
times. Yes.
Right. I think that we should talk about the reckoning in the context of, let's talk about it in the context of biblical terms, because I think that, the reckoning kind of goes to this religious ideology that there will be a reckoning followed by 1,000 years of peace. And somebody correct me if I'm wrong, that is how that actually goes. So when you think about this reckoning, this end of days, we're seeing the final stages of humanity, or whatever we're going to call it. Okay. And this is an extreme thing that we're talking about. So let's say that this is truly what it is. And that is followed by 1,000 years of peace. Seems like a kind of a good trade, don't you think?
Yeah.
I mean, for those of us who are experiencing the polarity and everything that's going on, what does 1,000 years of peace look like for you? Is it that money flows easily, freely, and often to you? Is it that there's no conflict? Is it that, nobody, everybody gets along, world peace, no more weapons? Like, what does that look like for you? Is it a good trade for you? Would it be boring to have 1,000 years of peace?
I don't think so.
Hard to say, right?
It's hard to say. Have we ever had peace?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so. And it's interesting how just allowing myself to think about this topic here in this moment. It's fascinating how my brain stops and says, yeah, but we're not there yet. And there's so much we're going to have to go through. So no, it's not worth it.
Right. Well, and that's, again, that's the brain, right? It's going, oh my gosh, it's going to have to get worse. Like, isn't it bad enough already?
Mm-hmm.
But it's about perspective. And I think that this is really the heart of the conversation.
100%.
Is it the reckoning, or is it your awakening?
Perhaps.
What's the perspective?
Both.
Perhaps it's both.
Perhaps it's both. It's interesting when somebody says something, anything, it doesn't matter. My guides are always pointing me towards distortions or limitations or things that, we've designed by human constructs, is what I'm trying to say. And it's interesting when you were saying that, it's going to get worse. It's going to get this. My guides were like picking up on those words and the said perspective. What is worse? What is good? What is bad? Is it possible? And opening up another possibility of, is it possible that things outside of your purview may get worse? And your life is not changed. You still do the same things. You still feel the same way. You still get to do what you want, how you want, when you want, whatever, right? You're still living this beautiful life. And then, or maybe potentially better.
Or
that's
better.
The duality that we live in, right? Both are possible.
Right. So if we let's talk about religion for a minute. because um, I feel like religion does play a small role in this. I think that as a society, there have been many that have leaned into religion for two reasons, but primarily for the reason of being a part of something, feeling like they're part of a community.
Mm-hmm.
And the other reason, getting closer to God. And when we look at organized religion, it's clear to most people that have taken this very objective view of organized religion that there is a certain level of control. You see it in some of the teachings and the way that they teach scripture, and that God is something to be feared, and that God will judge you on your final experience, right? On your last day, you get judged by God, and that God is merciful. So if this is God in the way that religious frames God, our one infinite creator, to be, are we buying it? I'm not buying it.
No.
Because when I channel God, when I communicate with God, the creator, source, I see the experience of light and love and peace and joy living out in my life. I feel that all souls are God incarnate.
Yes.
So if, going back to religion, God created himself in his own light, right? Then what does that make you? It makes you God incarnate. So when organized religion says, you shall come to church and worship in this holy place, God didn't ask you for that. The only thing God asked you for was that you believe. So what do you believe?
Mm-hmm. Well, and this opens up a whole new, not new, but another can of worms, or another direction. If the way that I see God is that powerful, infinite possibilities, abundance, love, like all these truly tremendous and amazing things. That's my perception of the power within God. And if you take that and say, well, you were made in the image, you are a divine creation, a divine being that is God, then you must be those things too, which gives us the ability to create a whole new reality, regardless of what we're seeing in front of us, if we choose to.
Exactly. So if you are God, source, creator, then you will be able to create as well. So many people look outside of themselves, right? They look outside of themselves for guidance, for, direction, oh God, please direct me, please show me the way, please, there's all these prayers going up to God, right? But the reality is that while you can pray to God and you can welcome God into your life, and you can, you can honor and devote your life to God, you must understand that all of the power of God is within you. Everything God can do for you, you can do yourself, because you are God.
Yeah.
You are, that's divine spark. So this whole looking outside of yourself to create the change you want to see in the world is just silly, because it is you.
So why would we create this? Like, why? I know that we live in a world of contrast. And this is why my guides are like, you know why we're creating this. One of the things we were talking about before we came in today, or we started the live today, in our prep meeting, we were talking about the idea of people needing a reckoning, a dismantling, a disruption, and what that does for them on the other side of said disruption, if they allow that. So this disruption or this reckoning happens in their lives. And I mean, we could call anything almost a reckoning, right? I think, I don't know. You have your life blow up. It kind of feels like the reckoning, you know, it's true, right? And we've both experienced those kinds of things in our life, like relationships tanking, for me, housing things, like all of these things could be like a portion of the reckoning as the way that I feel it energetically, not maybe scripturally. But for me, looking back on those times that I went through really tough stuff in my life, I needed them because I needed to wake up. I needed to see that there was another possibility. There was a way that I was limiting myself. There was, me looking outside of myself for someone else to save me, to take care of me, all of these things. And what has come forward over the last couple of months for me is this faith piece, having faith in God, the universe, on this whole other level that I never could have. I can't even put it into words, but this whole other level, and faith that I have that spark within. And if God, I think, is so powerful, then it means that I too am powerful within, which I create my reality. So also without, in this world that we live in.
Exactly.
But it still doesn't feel good when you're going through it. Like, I want to acknowledge those people who are feeling depressed right now, or scared right now, or working through all of the emotions. I feel you.
Definitely.
It's not an easy place to be.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, we are seeing a lot going on, in the financial systems, in the, political environments, in the, with laws and the court system. And, there's so much going on. And the question that I ask is, is this shift in the energy in each of these different systems and structures, and I'm going to call them confines of human existence, would it be absolutely horrible if there was a dismantling of those systems? Because when we look at, reckoning, so when we look at this, is this necessarily a bad thing? Is it a good thing? Is it a horrible thing? And I ask that everyone watching this asks themselves that question. What would it mean if the systems collapsed? Just start thinking about it. Mm-hmm. What does that mean?
And I think to add something to that, Heather, when you're thinking about it, watch for your own human perspective limitations, because we've grown up in a world where we have Starbucks down the road and McDonald's, and, we use a piece of plastic to go boop and everything is paid for. And, our vegetables vastly come from California here in Canada for the most part, because it worked that way, or that's the only thing that we've known, does not mean that is the only possibility. We live in a world of infinite possibilities. So don't beat yourself up when you get caught in that, like it's going to be destruction and everybody's, going to starve and die and whatever, all of that stuff. Sure, that is one timeline, that is potential. And what else is possible? When you start talking about the possibilities, which I feel I am the queen of possibilities. Woohoo! I do this with myself as I go through these things. Is I notice this, and this is why I'm saying this, is because as I was having this conversation with myself, I was seeing my own human perspective lock me into the way it has to be. It has to be difficult. It's going to be painful for a lot of people. And I can't, at this point, when I think about I don't know if this would be a micro perspective, but when I think about like the things that I do in my daily life, like, if I go out for lunch or something like that, I can't imagine right now another possibility of currency. I know that there is a new earth currency that is coming, and that's a part of what my mission is here. However, the nuts and bolts of how that works, my brain is like, no idea. Which I was afraid of before. There was a lot of fear.
And I think that, the idea of another currency coming in is probably a fearful topic for most people, because it's been this way for as long as all of us here on earth can remember, right? We've all been brought up, raised, indoctrinated into the idea of worthless paper being valuable. And, I have these conversations oftentimes with, family and friends about, what are you going to do? You're going to trade chickens for, roofing materials? Maybe. We don't know. We don't know what that new earth currency looks like. And would it be so bad if it were?
Well, and a lot of people would argue, well, that didn't work, and that's why we evolved to a new currency or whatever. True. And that's one possibility.
It's only one possibility.
Only one possibility. There's so many other things that could happen instead. And when we talk about this reckoning of things changing, it could be possibly just the thing that society needs to, I'm going to use words that I don't like to use because they're used by people that I'm not very fond of, but reimagine.
Right.
Like, let's take, and who says those words, right? But let's take those words back and put the control back in within to reimagine something that is even better and that supports and provides for the people, the earth, the animals, like the oneness that we're here to create.
I mean, really, there's so many ways, right? There's so many ways that we can, create and design and experience the life that we're here to experience. And whether you want to look at it as a reckoning or an awakening or just a transition, all of those words are not really relevant. What's relevant is, are you tuning in to the creator that is you? So what they're talking about is about, you being this one infinite creator incarnate. And that everything that you put your energy into is created into your experience. And so collectively, we're seeing what's happening. You can tell just by what you're seeing occurring, what the real collective is feeling. I'm talking about the human collective, not them collective, but the human collective, right? Mm-hmm. So as humanity is going through this experience, this transition, this, this fluctuation, we're continuing to manifest more disruption, destruction, revolution. So what they're saying is, when you find yourself getting engaged in that narrative, you can choose differently. Mm-hmm. Even if you are running a rant in your mind about some political thing or some, thing you saw on the news or some guy that cut you off on the street, you can reframe it and say, I forgive myself for having this thought. I choose love instead. Mm-hmm. Because if we're to bring in systems and structures and ways of being that are completely heart-centered and revolve around the currency of love, we have to do this by creating that together as a collective, as the oneness. Mm-hmm. And this is what we're here experiencing, is the transition between the old and what is to become. Mm-hmm.
That's why we're here. We signed up for this.
That's right.
And it's interesting because when it comes to money, we are so linear thinking about how it works and how it has to work and what we need to run a society. And there's all of these things that it touches. And we were talking about that in our pre-meeting, was that, when it comes to the distortions and the fear mongering and stuff like that, it usually has something to do with the power control money. And they being, maybe the polarity, whatever you want to call it, utilize these levers almost to create more fear. And I remember doing this exercise 4 years ago, 5 years ago, something like that. And the exercise was, what do I need money for? What do I need money for? Like, what do I need money for? Okay, I need to pay my taxes, or I need to pay my mortgage. Okay, what else? Like, outside of that, what do I need money for? I need money for food. Okay. I need money for gas. I need money for, clothes or whatever. Right. And it's because of the limitation that I saw within our own society of like, this is just how we do it. We get food from, the food from the store. We've had this great transition over, if you look through history, from people growing their own food and being more sustainable on their own to moving to big cities, and that has caused us to do things in a certain way. Factory farming, that's the reason why they say they do it. I mean, you even look at large scale farm operations. I'm a farm girl. You look around even just the small community that I live within, and these farmers have thousands of acres typically, because that's the only way that they can actually compete. And then they're using things like pesticides and fertilizers and things like that. And this conversation has come up a lot between my husband and I because of everything that's happening in the Netherlands with the farmers and, the pretty boy prime minister we have here, who is all on board for all of it and like coming to Canada next, is what they're saying. And for me, I want to take a peaceful approach, or a calm, neutral approach, if not a high level approach to everything that I'm getting into. And I put that with an asterisk because I'm just trying, I'm working on it. I'm an imperfect, perfect human. Right. So in these these scenarios I've been running with Nate and saying, okay, well, they're trying to eliminate, I've heard 50%, I've heard 95%. I don't know the actual number, but nitrogen usage and fertilizer, like, so nitrogen and pesticides and things like that within the Netherlands. And people aren't seeing, one, the catastrophe that could ensue because of this, because of the way that we live. So I asked my husband, what's going to happen if they stop doing these things that they used to do? Oh, production is going to come down big time. It's not that it's impossible to grow things without that stuff, but production comes down dramatically. Now, if you had 100% was feeding the people, whoever that is, the society, the population, whatever, the Netherlands, I think they feed way more than just the Netherlands, but let's just say that fed all of the people that they needed to. Now, if their production is 40% less, where's that gap going to come from? And that is the thing that creates the fear. Oh no, I'm not going to have enough food. And then going back to this conversation about what do I need money for? Oh, I can't grow my own vegetables. Well, why not? And it started to get me thinking about the way that we live our lives. And I actually want to touch on this comment that Trisha made. Another friend of hers who lives her life by her dreams. Long story on how she came to be, but she said she had a dream many years ago that currency of the future is leverage creativity. And it's interesting, I had a hit similar when I was having this conversation with myself, trying to break out of the box that I had created within society of how society runs with money. Because I can see the high level version of what New Earth currency is going to be, but how does that work for our society? That's what I've been mulling over. And what really came to me was what Trisha was just saying, this leverage of creativity. Now, imagine we really did want to save the planet, or we wanted to have less impact. I personally do not think the planet is in danger at this point. I think a lot of this is distortion and control, manipulation, all of that, those three things we were coming back to, the power, right? But so when in thinking about it, where was I going with that? Oh, the leverage of creation. Imagine if people came together and had free reign, to be creative and say, just like I did with my husband over the last few days, how is this going to make an impact? What's the impact of doing said thing? Oh, we'll have less production. Okay, so what are we going to do now? And what created that problem? Okay, well, maybe us all coming together in a city created that problem. Us relying heavily on food that's trucked in from thousands and thousands of miles, which, I mean, by the way, produce loses a lot of its nutritional value when you truck it from long places. And I don't know enough about that, but that's not really good. So you start getting into a room with brilliant people, because we have brilliant people on this planet, and the rest of them are also brilliant. They just haven't tapped into that brilliance yet. Imagine putting together a panel of people who just want to do better when it comes to food production. And they have full reign on ideas. There is no sanctioning of this or regulations of that. We have had free energy, maybe not in my lifetime, but in previous, history, there's free energy. You and I both watched documentaries about that. Imagine, look at what Nikola Tesla did and then was, sheltered or, put in a box somewhere.
Right.
There is technology that we haven't discovered or created, or just this creativity that we haven't tapped into to create the world that we truly want because of this manipulation and control. But we can. And I think this is the signal to start thinking about it. How would we do things differently? What I've come up with so far, we would have communities that would come together like they used to. They used to have community halls and everybody would participate in them, and they'd have community gardens and things like that. We come together as communities to support one another. Boom, that changes a lot.
I think it's really fantastic, this community coming togetherness, right? When we moved here, our community has like an app, right? And so if you're going to talk to your neighbors or you're going to talk to your HOA, you do it through this app that they have. And
Right.
as we were talking about this potential food crisis, right, that we see starting to come down the pipeline. We're seeing some stores have bare shelves. I'm sure you guys are seeing it on social media. They're probably showing it on the news. I don't know. I don't watch the news. So, but the thing is that we're starting to see this trickling in of like food scarcity. And about 2.5, maybe 3 weeks ago, I put a post out on my community app that said, hey, we're thinking about taking a portion of our backyard and turning it into a garden. Would anybody be interested in doing kind of a co-op? We'll grow something, you grow something, you grow something, each person grows something, and then there's only one crop that we have to worry about. And we'll have it like, we're going to just kind of create this. And then when it comes time to harvest, we'll all share with each other.
Yeah.
I had probably 10 people right away say, oh, I'm totally in on that. I would love to do something like that. These people do not know us from Adam. We could be murderers, right? But the reality is that the intention was put out there of let's create community involvement. Let's get together to support one another, give love to one another. And we can do this through food, through growing a single thing. And then we share it. And you know what? If somebody's crop goes belly up, we're still going to share it because that's what neighbors do. That's what people who love people do.
That's right.
And I encourage you, all of you, everyone to do the same thing. Get with your neighbors, join up, come together. Can you do a cow share?
Yeah.
4 families going in together on a cow is affordable. You can do this.
Yes.
Everybody gets an equal share. Do you learn how to use, parts that maybe you didn't think you were ever going to have to prepare? Maybe. Could be fun.
Yeah, maybe you like them even more. Who knows?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that, as we were preparing for this call, there was something that was brought up. It was a quote by a fellow named Billy Carson. And I want to talk about this because it blew my mind when it was said today. And that is that there is more money than all of the tech companies combined in organized religion.
Their profit.
Their profit. So organized religion makes more money than all of the tech companies combined. Now, if that's true, which, I think Billy is pretty tapped in. So let's talk about this, because if that's true, we're talking about more money than Microsoft, Apple, Samsung, rattle off a bazillion other tech companies, Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, Save the Dishes, whatever it is in your company. Like, these are all tech companies, right? You think about all of the technology that just you use in your life, and all of the technology you don't use in your life. And organized religion makes more money than that.
Interesting.
And where does that money go? Sure, some of it's on humanitarian aid, maybe, probably, right? But are they using it for control?
I was even going to say, even the humanitarian aid, if you start looking beyond the, first glance of the web page, you start to see some things that don't really feel good, like the Red Cross or the UNICEF. I think their VPs or presidents make millions of dollars, and only a small portion of what you give to them actually goes out into the field. It became glaringly obvious this over the last 2 years that it's not about money when it comes to the world's biggest problems, because if money could solve it, if money could solve world hunger, then we would have just printed the same amount that we did for COVID, throughout the world and given that out. Or you look at when that church burned down in Rome. I can't know, maybe it's not Rome. It's a very, very specific church. It burnt down in 2020, I think, or 2019. Historical artifact. Anyway, they got like $1 billion to repair it in less than 24 hours. There's money for these initiatives. But I saw actually something from the World Economic Forum. It was an old report about how it's better to keep people poor, because when we have poor people, then we have workers. Very interesting thing. I'll try and find the resource that I saw it on. They had to backdate the internet. I'm not really sure how they do that, but they showed it on the video. But very, very interesting. When I think a lot of it goes towards that power and control and creating more fear. If there's not enough food and you see people that are starving, obviously your heart goes out to these people. How could it not? And you start thinking, oh, well, somebody has it way worse than I do, so I shouldn't feel bad, right? You start thinking all of these things. Notre Dame in Paris. Thank you. Yes, that's right. That's the one that I was talking about. So I think that a lot of it goes to different facets of power and control. And I mean, we've seen some in the way of what's it called? Cancel culture within Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, and like censoring people, censoring different ideas or narratives. When you look throughout history, there was a guy who created a patent for a vehicle to run on water, and he died. And that patent disappeared. So, I mean, this control and manipulation has been a long game, and it's easy to get caught up back in it. Well, this is the way that it is. Well, is that the way that you want to choose?
Right. Is that the game that you want to play?
Yeah.
So really this comes back to, reckoning or awakening, right?
Yes.
Do you choose the reckoning? Do you choose more of the collapse, the failures, the heartache, the brokenness, the control, the being subjected to somebody else's agenda? Do you choose this? Do you choose reckoning, or do you choose awakening? The possibilities, the opportunities, this is really an opportunity for humanity, for the souls here to come together to create a new future.
Yeah. My guides want to put their 2 cents in.
Please.
They're showing me like this box, and they're saying, remember to check your perspective, and that this is an opportunity to open up to something that you didn't even think was possible. And the vision of this, or the illustration that they give me, is like people in a box, and it sounds like the box is being crushed. It's really loud, and all the people are like, ah, and then like there's banging on the top, and then there's a slight opening of light. And when you start to dismantle, and this isn't a box, it's a crate. It's got like wooden slats. And as you start to dismantle the bars of the slats, you start to see that there's this whole other world, and that it was just simply, your cue. It's time to get out of the box. It's time to get out of this perspective that is keeping you stuck here. So as you go through it, these feelings are very real. What we're witnessing is real, and it is easy to go down this rabbit hole of like, life sucks, we're all screwed, like I'm gonna hide under my blankie. And if you have those moments, my heart goes out to you. Me too. Earlier today I had one. So I get it. And that doesn't mean that it stops there. you can use that as an opportunity to, how can I deeply feel those feelings within me? How can I love myself on another level? We talked about this in our pre-meeting too, that what is that quote from the Bible? To love me is to know me. I think that comes from the Bible, right? And if you start to apply God to yourself, that infinite spark within you, to love you is to know you. This is just an opportunity to get to know how your brain works, how your body works, what you're afraid of, what that little one inside of you is saying to you on a whole nother level. Even the way that you're viewing reality in the world and the perspective that you're perched on. Because at that pivotal moment, that point, that divine point, you get to choose, because there's always another possibility available, another perspective that doesn't feel so locked down, that maybe is just an inch to the left or an inch to the right, that feels better, where you can see the distortion in where you were before, and you can start to raise your vibration once again. I think that there is a lot of attacks on our vibration right now. So we need to be mindful of that, not beat ourselves up when we go down that path, but start to get curious and start loving and accepting all of us on another level at this time.
Yeah, and I want to make sure that this doesn't get misconstrued, right? Sometimes when we talk about like go within, like love yourself, like do the work on you, sometimes this gets misconstrued as individualism, right? Like I am only I only focus on me. I don't do anything. It's just self singular focused, and that's not exactly what you're saying here. So I just want to make this really clear that it's about understanding that while you need to love you, your divine spark, your little injured child, all of the aspects that make up who you are, and understand that you are a piece of everything else because you're that divine spark.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's so beautiful. Like I love your guides so much. They're so amazing. So whew,
Trisha has
everybody
another
take a
question.
deep breath.
Yeah, we need
Yeah.
to take a deep breath and like get
Collective
the
deep
scum
breath,
off.
shake it off.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, Trisha's question. What does it say?
First, I want to say it always works out for the better.
Always
Works out
for the better.
So we need to anchor into that and remind ourselves when we get scared. We're like little children. Seriously, we're just taller. Most of us are. Heather and I, not so much. Okay, so for the guides, what is a key to moving beyond these excessive patriarchal qualities? Ooh, what are your guides?
Wait, I think that's so funny. Before I ask my guides that, and I might need to ask you to repeat the question, but I think it's interesting the language of patriarchal structures, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because before this was our episode, we were going to talk about the patriarchy and this new moving into the feminine flow of things, right? So I think that's just so beautiful how the universe has brought this right back around. So thank you, Trisha, for asking your question. So repeat her question again, and we will ask.
What is a key to moving beyond these excessive patriarchal qualities?
So what they're saying is the thing to remember is that these structures, these institutions are were divinely created from a feminine creation. So this is interesting. So they're saying that in order for us to appreciate and recognize the generation, like the creation, the grinding, right? That creates this patriarchal structure, that in order for us to experience like flow and ease and, ebbing and flowing and moving along, that these needed to be created and experienced and passed on through like almost like genetic programming is like what they're showing me. So because of this, while the feminine just wishes to crush that mentality or that mindset or that structure or that whole system, they're saying that, remember, creation is that of the feminine, that the feminine is the creation. And so these systems were birthed. They were not just evolutions, right? They were birthed into the existence. And so while it's easy for, or the desire of those that are trudging the force to this matriarchal structure, of the matriarchy, they have to remember that they, in and of themselves, in that matriarchal structure, the patriarchy was created. And so you see, it's the yin and the yang of the differences of the two. It's the polarity of the two. It's the contrary of the two. And so they want to remind us that while we want to just run down that road of the matriarchy and just crush the patriarchy into crumbs and leave it in the past, they want to remind us that it is the matriarchy, it is the divine feminine that created it. So don't be so quick to crush it in that particular space. But they're saying to move with this energy, to just release the attachments to how that grinding of the systems has been, that by releasing that and letting that go and saying, I see you and I appreciate how far you've gotten us to this point, but we are now ready to move on. We're now ready to evolve. And we thank you for this experience. And we are ready to evolve into something new, something different, perhaps something contrary.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Beautiful. I don't think I want to add anything to that. I feel like it was just so perfect, Heather. I think it was beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'll be able to watch the replay and see what it is I just said.
Yeah.
Because I was only sort of in and out there for a minute. So hopefully that answers Trisha's question. So
I believe so. I believe
good.
so. It's so interesting. I'm often, reminded of the phrase that you say when you're standing inside the frame, it's hard to see the whole picture. And I think for a lot of these things that we're witnessing at this time, we're inside the frame and we're getting further and further inside the frame because we want to fight and we want to make it right. And, all of these things. And something else we were talking about earlier was just focus. Are you focused on how it's awful all the time? Like, it's not supporting me. This isn't supporting me. This is bad. This is bad. This is bad. This is bad. Or are you coming from it at a neutral place without that attachment of, okay, I think that there is a better way, maybe is a better way to say it than this is awful or whatever. That doesn't feel in alignment with me. And this is what I want instead. We did that as a group, our friend group last week, when they turned on CERN and I had heard that there was different timeline things being activated. And the message that I received is be positive, be positive and imagine what you want for life. And so I started to look outside of myself and look at the world that we live in with society and things like that, medicine. And, you and Jackie and myself, we just had this beautiful conversation about all the things that we would want in our perfect world or our beautiful world that we want to create. And it made me feel so much better. So get together with some good friends and start asking, what do I want instead? What could I imagine instead when it comes to government, healthcare, financial systems, currency, whatever. And you don't have to have the answer. But I think it goes right back to that creativity. We are creating it in this moment. So what do we want to create, guys?
Beautifully said. Beautifully said.
Thank you. And Trisha said, yes, absolutely. That answered her question. Wow, that was awesome and makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Hey, if you guys are liking this, don't forget to click the like button. If you're not already subscribed, please do so. We are literally 30 subscribers away from having a searchable URL. That is so important that we can obtain that, because right now, if you're not following us on social, you may not be seeing us, and we're trying to get the word out to help uplift and inspire humanity, the souls that are here incarnate at this time. And so by reaching, that searchable URL ability really helps us to, get the word out. So if you have, multiple Gmail accounts, sign up under all of them.
Subscribe
please,
with
because
all. Yeah.
Subscribe with all, so that, we really, we're really leaning on you guys to help us out, and tell your friends, we're so close. So
yeah. Tell all your friends. You just have to share this video and then say subscribe.
Exactly.
We have a big event planned next week, Heather. Yeah, woo woo. We have a very, very special episode. I'm not going to tell you any of the details. You're going to have to wait to see it on Instagram, what's coming next, but it is a milestone for us and for Channel Squared. And we have some really cool things planned for you guys. So make sure you put that in your calendar and that you're subscribed and you have the reminder button all done up so you don't miss the episode, because it's going to be amazing. Any final words, Heather?
Always choose love. Regardless of whether you are choosing reckoning or awakening, just make sure it's in love, because if you open your heart and you ask for the guidance from that place, it will always lead you in the right direction.
Yeah. So beautiful. Thank you.